Hello, everyone. Bonjour et bienvenue. Thank you for attending our virtual meeting of the CPATA Board of Directors. I now call the meeting to order. If you'd like to listen to the meeting in French, you can access the simultaneous interpretation by clicking the globe icon in the bottom of your window and selecting your language. CPATA is the Canadian federal regulator of patent agents and trademark agents, with staff and licensees living and working throughout our nation. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the land we call Canada as the traditional and ancestral territory of many Indigenous peoples, people who have lived on and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us, and for those who have gone before us. We respect the histories, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our communities. Today and every day, we acknowledge this and we offer our appreciation for living and working on this beautiful land. By offering this land acknowledgement, we remind ourselves that we live in a land of great diversity and that we are accountable for our relationships with all who live here. CPATA remains actively engaged in IP and regulation thought leadership. In February, CEO Judith Straczynski spoke to the AI in Regulation conference that convened regulators from across Canada as well as international experts. Our CEO and Registrar and our Director of Communications will be joining colleagues from CIPO and the Competition Bureau on March 31st for a Fraud Prevention Month webinar addressing the rise of sophisticated IP scams targeting Canadian business and innovators. The session will highlight common trademark scams, impersonation tactics, key warning signs, and it'll offer practical tips to help clients stay protected. Agents are encouraged to share this valuable resource with clients who might benefit from this increased awareness. CPATA recently engaged in a call for comments on proposed license fee ranges. CPATA is taking steps to adjust license fees for 2027 and 2028 with the expectation of a moderate fee reduction for each of those years. The call for comments closed on February 27, and we are grateful to all of those who shared their thoughts and perspectives with us. Our board looks forward to reviewing the results as it considers next steps. As an independent regulator, CPATA's funding comes exclusively from fees, 90% of which are license fees. The college sets license fees at amounts sufficient to meet its extensive mandate. CPATA fees are set in Schedule 1 of the bylaws, which are drafted in conjunction with the Department of Justice. Thank you to all who took the time to respond to the call for comments. In addition to a thoughtful submission from IPIC, we also received around 30 individual submissions from licensees. The board will consider these submissions along with data from our 2026 license renewal period, which closes on March 31st. Once decisions are made, CPATA's next steps will be conveyed with the intention of adjusting license fees for January 2027. CPATA relies on the support of licensees and other IP and regulation experts to carry out its extensive mandate. There are many opportunities to work with us. Currently, we're seeking expressions of interest to fill one agent position on the registration committee, which assists the registrar in administering the college's licensing requirements. Committee members are compensated for their time and expertise. Submissions can be made to the Director of Registration and Education, Deputy Registrar Jen Slobodkin, via the email provided on our website. This request has been communicated to licensees on a number of occasions, and the deadline for submission is March 31st. I strongly encourage anyone with the capacity and interest to contribute to please consider this opportunity. CPATA is also seeking 16 agents in training and approved training supervisors for a working group to develop supervised practice resources. Participants will attend online meetings and complete surveys in June with the goal of developing a template training plan, interim assessment, and summative evaluation to frame the supervised practice training program. They'll each receive an honorarium of $750 for this work. This opportunity has also been previously communicated to licensees, and I encourage anyone with the capacity to contribute to submit an expression of interest by April 3rd. Our AGM will be held in Ottawa on Thursday, June 4th. We welcome anyone who can join us in person or virtually to learn more about our work to date and to help celebrate our 5-year anniversary. More information will be provided in upcoming monthly newsletters. That concludes my report. And now let's turn to today's meeting. Board meeting materials are published on the website in both English and French, where they are accessible to the public prior to the meeting. Recordings of each meeting are also available on the website. I'll begin by asking directors to declare if they have any conflicts regarding matters on the agenda. I know that the consent agenda includes a committee appointment, and the director involved will recuse themselves from that section. Are there any other conflicts to declare?
No, none.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none, would someone please move to adopt the agenda? The motion is, be it resolved that the agenda for the March 24, 2026 meeting of CPATA's Board of Directors is approved as circulated. Could I have a mover? Perfect. And so I see Elise and Scott as a seconder. Thank you so much. Any discussion on this matter? No, I will then call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. Next up is our consent agenda. So within our consent agenda, directors are asked to indicate if there's any item that's included in the consent agenda that should be removed and added to the regular agenda for further discussion. So is there anything that anyone would like to have moved? Okay, looking around the room, seeing nothing. So there's a two-part motion. I'll read the motion and then I'll ask for someone to move it. The motion, be it resolved that 1, the minutes of December 10, 2025, and 2, to set Scott Jolliffe's appointment to the CEO and Registrar's Annual Performance and Compensation Working Group until the 2026 Annual General Meeting that will be held in June 2027 are approved. So that's the motion. Can I have someone so move? Tom, thank you. Could I have a seconder? Elise, thank you. And Scott, I think you'll recuse yourself from voting on this. Okay, great. That being said, any further discussion on this item before I call for a vote? And seeing none, I'm calling now for a vote. All in favor? Are there any opposed? Okay, that motion has been carried. Thank you. Next up on our agenda are committee reports. CPATA's committees play a vital role in our regulatory initiatives. Each committee has a unique function, and that function is described in their reports, as well as their recent activity. To consider committee recommendations presented to the board from time to time for approval, and to otherwise meet its fiduciary oversight duties, the board receives regular reports from each of its committees. The first committee we're going to hear from is our Investigations Committee. Victoria Reese, General Counsel, Professional Regulation, over to you.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Wasn't sure we were going to be called on to speak to this. The committee had a very busy meeting. You have an introduction there as to the committee's role and authority and the composition. They had a meeting on January the 22nd and made a number of decisions about active matters. So on the basis of a subject matter expert opinion, 2 complaints were dismissed because of a lack of jurisdiction and inappropriate forum for resolution of the matters. A new investigation was opened against a trademark agent at a national firm, and we received updates relating to ongoing investigations. There is one matter that may be proceeding to hearing. We've sought a prosecutorial viability opinion from our counsel, and one matter that could have made it to the investigations committee was resolved without need of that. And the committee next meets next on Thursday. And so they continue to have a range of activity before them and will continue to report. If there are any questions?
Not seeing any questions for you, Victoria. Thank you so much. Really appreciate just that that brief summary and the opportunity to open the floor to any questions to the board. So thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Next, we have our discipline committee, but since they didn't meet during the period, there is no report from the discipline committee. And just a reminder to anyone who might be online, all of these materials have been reviewed in great detail by the board of directors in advance of the meeting and certainly made available to the public in advance as well. Next, we've got our registration committee. Jen, is there anything that you'd like to share with the board in addition to your excellent written report that you provided?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There aren't any additional details that I need to share at this time. I think that the report is pretty self-explanatory with respect to the results of the examination and the committee's work on approving the cut score. As it says, they met just a few weeks ago as well, and the board will receive that information at their June meeting. That was for the winter knowledge examinations. And so work is going along quite nicely for that committee. And I again thank you and appreciate your plug for our recruitment for that committee as well.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Jen. Yeah, hopefully we'll get some good people coming forward. It's a really fascinating committee to be working on, and certainly working with you and your team is a real pleasure. So
thank you.
Hopefully we'll get some good candidates. Thank you. Directors, any comments or thoughts or anything you'd like to share regarding the committee report? No? Okay, seeing none, we will move forward then. And next up is the report from the governance committee. And there's also a motion contained in that report too. So over to our governance committee chair, Tom Conway.
Thank you, Ruth. So the committee report can be found starting at page 12 of the materials. Again, the board members have had an opportunity to review the report, so I'll just touch on just a couple of quick highlights. Again, just for those who are attending by video conference and who are not part of the board, the governance committee is responsible for providing advice and recommendations to the board on a variety of governance issues and supports the board in operating in accordance with best professional regulatory practices, and that's the whole reason that we have the governance committee. So we have been since the last board meeting, we've met once in January to consider the draft regulatory principles by which we operate. The committee reviewed those draft materials, and those draft materials are now before the board, starting at page 14 of the materials for 4 pages. And the motion relates to approval of these regulatory principles. And so the motion is in the materials. There is really the materials, the regulatory principles are fairly self-evident. They deal with such things as self-reporting, development of the strategic framework for 2023, et cetera. So it really is reporting on the progress on some of our initiatives. And so I'll be, at the end of the meeting, I'll be asking for a vote on those regulatory principles. The other points I would simply touch on, a couple of updates. We are still awaiting new appointments to the board from the minister's office. They have been delayed considerably in making new appointments. I guess given what is happening in the world, that they can perhaps be excused for that. But we are still awaiting some indication from the minister as to when we will get new appointments to the board. And regrettably, we don't have any news to report on that. We're still in waiting mode. The other thing I would simply like to report on is that we completed the director and committee evaluations, the self-evaluations that the surveys that were sent out to all committee members and committee chairs, as well as the board of directors. And I'm pleased to report that the survey results indicates a good level of satisfaction in the way that the college is governing itself. Certainly from my perspective as the chair of the governance committee, I'm quite pleased with the results. However, I do think it's important that we continue to self-evaluate as we go along, and that we keep a critical eye to all of our practices, because that's the only way that we can make sure that we identify weaknesses in governance, in our governance structures, and address them when they arise. But so far, so good, and I think that's a very positive result. We have some. So that's really, I think, all I really wanted to report on. There is going to be some input from the governance committee on the new appointments that will be coming up, but I don't think we need to get into that in any great detail. So with that, Ruth, I think I would propose that we deal with the motion to approve the regulatory principles document starting at page 14 of the materials.
Yeah, that sounds great, Tom. Thank you so much. So I'll read the motion in and then just open it for any discussion. So the motion is, be it resolved that the regulatory principles that guide our work as of 2026 are approved. And Tom, I'm assuming you're moving that.
Yes.
Tom has made that motion. Could we have a seconder, please? It is. Thank you. So that motion is now on the table. I would just like to open it up for any discussion. Personally, I'm super proud of our regulatory principles. I think that it's pretty leading edge governance to really review those principles in the way that we do, make them a living, breathing part of how we govern this regulatory organization, and that we make them public, I think is actually, pretty progressive. So I'm quite proud of that work and hope you all are too. With that, the floor is open to any comments or thoughts around our regulatory principles before I call for a vote. So seeing no further comments from directors, I will now call for the vote. All in favor of the motion? Are there any opposed? That motion is carried. Thanks very much, Tom.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, the next report is from the Audit and Risk Committee, and we are so pleased that we've got Bob Plamondon, the chair of our Audit and Risk Committee, with us today. Bob, it's just always such a pleasure to have you with us, and we're just so honored that you lead this really important committee for us. So without further ado, you've got our CFO Sean Walker here and our CEO Judah to support you. So I'm lobbing this ball right over to you, Bob.
Thank you, Chair. It's a pleasure to be here. Just to the to members, as a reminder, we have a very active Audit and Risk Committee, which deals with not just the financial components of and the financial health of the organization, which is, monitoring ongoing activity, active engagement in the budget, then engagement and review of the year-end financial statements and the audit. And also within our portfolio is risk management. So we are looking at various risks that impact CPATA, and that's an ongoing review of risk as they evolve. The committee, including myself as the chair, I'm independent, and in fact, I'm not on the board. It's also supported by another independent member, and on our committee are several board members, and of course the board members are welcome to attend our meetings as observers, which from time to time that they do. So we are a transparent committee. Since the last public meeting, the audit committee has met on several occasions to do routine business as well as activities related to the year end. The report is contained in the package from pages 19 to 44, so we win on volume in terms of the amount of material that we have. This includes the financial statements for the 2 months of 2026. So we have January and February, and I can report that the committee has reviewed those statements, and there's nothing exceptional to report. We are essentially on track with prior year and on track with budgets. There are a number of operational matters dealt with in the report, issues that we're looking at. The main item for today is the audited financial statements. We have a clean audit opinion, as you would expect from an independent auditor, which means that they have judged that our financial statements present fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles by applying generally accepted auditing standards. So there's nothing exceptional to report. The highlight of the year-end financial statement is a surplus of $1.4 million, which has directly strengthened the financial position of CPATA to the tune of $1.4 million. In other words, it shows up in our liquid and investment account. This leaves us with a net asset position, which is our assets minus our liabilities, of $3.2 million, which is a significant strengthening over the prior year. This level of net assets enables us to have reserves that are not in excess of the reserve level requirements that were set, but we're getting very close to the target that the board has set for reserves. There is a motion on page 32 of the materials for the board to recommend to the members the year-end audited financial statements. And with that, Chair, I'm happy to respond to any questions before we get to the motion.
That sounds great. So any questions or thoughts from our board? This is a super important duty of the board. So, and we received, in my view, an absolutely outstanding package once again from our CFO, Sean, and his team. So really, really well done, Sean. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Chair, I've mentioned this before, but I serve on boards that are many, many, many multiples in size of CPATA, and I only wish I had the quality and the insight and the level of analysis and appropriate constructive support that I received from Judah and Sean. So I could second your comments, Chair, about how well served we are by the staff team.
Oh, thanks so much, Bob, and certainly coming from you, that's high praise indeed, Sean. I'm sure you're quite pleased with that, and Judah. So really well done, Sean. I guess just before I open it up again to directors, is there anything you might like to add, Sean, or anything you want to perhaps highlight for directors, or anything like that before we, make the motion to approve the statements?
Well, I guess, Ruth, would you like me to go through the statements now or talk about them
Uh,
or just talk about the committee's progress to date?
well, I guess just maybe at a high level, here's the thing, Sean. You can certainly take as read
Okay,
that,
perfect.
that this great package that you've provided has been read by all directors. I'm going to take a quick look around. Directors, I'm assuming I'm correct in stating that, right? That you don't really need a walkthrough. You've all you've all done your due diligence and reviewed the package. So Sean, everybody
Okay.
looks pretty comfortable with the package having been reviewed. That being said, a picture's worth 1,000 words, which you've also provided. And so anything though, in addition that you would like to share about uh, the work this year, anything around the audit, anything at all that
Okay.
you feel you'd like to share with the board, the floor is yours.
Okay. I have probably 3 or 4 points that I wanted
Sure.
to
Yeah,
highlight.
great.
The first one is Bob mentioned the 1.4 number, the 1.4 million. So as you're reading through the statements, it would help you to keep in mind that our cash is so closely tied to our year-end position that if you notice that our cash balance went up by 1.4 and our reserves went up by 1.4 million, and then that tends to carry on through the statements. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing what I wanted to mention was, for the director's benefit, is that during 2025 we were able to remove the minister's guarantee on our line of credit, so that is now gone. So that is now reflected in the notes as well. So now we're fully standing on our own 2 feet, which is phenomenal, especially within 5 years in. We never thought we'd be even close to that. And then also one thing that came up at the Audit and Risk Committee that we talked about at length was the fact that the new reserve policy that was just approved in December, on the face of our statements, we're not breaking, on the face of the statements, we don't break out like this is our operating fund, this is our professional responsibility, unauthorized practice and litigation fund. The intention is to do that during 2026 when the reserves are fully built, and that'll allow us to show on the face of the statements how everything is flowing. So I wanted to wait another year to do that to make sure that we can do it in accordance with the planning. And then the other note is just with the call for comments. The audit committee is meeting week of April 15th to go through that information as well before it comes to the board at the strategic planning in April. So we'll have that group. There's a very knowledgeable lens on it before it even comes back to the board. And as Bob said, it's a clean audit opinion. It's our fifth in a row, so pretty excited.
That's
On
fantastic.
all those issues, we had robust discussion at the board, and so we're supported with Maureen Rogers, who's an independent member, as well as Edith and Scott, who are active participants in the board, and other board members who attend as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Judah, is there anything you would like to add before I again open the floor to directors? Nope, you're good. Seeing nothing there. Perfect. Directors, any thoughts, comments you would like to share? Particularly Scott, Iris, since you serve on the audit committee, anything you would like to share with your director colleagues about your work on the committee or about the audited financial statements themselves?
I think there's really nothing else to add at this
Okay.
time, and it will be coming to the AGM also. So I think it's just been a fantastic year of united stance on and a very in-depth view on the issues as we dealt with, and even with the auditors, the experience has been one of giving a lot of confidence, and before our fifth anniversary. Thank you.
That's fantastic, Iris. Thank you. Scott, any thoughts you'd like to share?
Nothing to add other than I'm just so impressed with the great work that Sean does and the leadership of the committee that Bob provides. It's a pleasure to participate on this committee.
That's fantastic, Scott. Appreciate that. All right. So any other thoughts from directors before I read the motion into the record and ask for someone to move it? Any other thoughts? No, we're good. Okay. The motion is, be it resolved, the board approves CPATA's audited financial statements for the period ending December 31, 2025, as provided in this meeting package. Further, be it resolved, the chair of the board and the chief executive officer are authorized to sign statements on behalf of the college, and the CEO is authorized to publish the statements on CPATA's website and distribute them as required. That's the motion. May I have would someone make that motion, please? Iris, thank you. A seconder? Scott, thanks so much. Oh, sorry, Anna Abigail, I missed you there. Thank you, Iris and Scott. Any discussion? That motion is now on the table. Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. So thanks again, Bob, Iris, Scott, Judah, Sean, everyone involved in this. Really appreciate.
Vicky also.
Oh,
Vicky,
Vicky,
yes,
for sure.
Vicky, everyone there's a lot of heavy lifting that goes into this. So thank you. We very much appreciate it. All right. Next up, we have any other business because we're about to conclude this meeting, unless there's any other business that anyone would like to share or think about? No? Okay, we're good then. I'm now going to make a motion to close the meeting. So the motion is, be it resolved that the public part of the meeting be now adjourned. Could I have someone make that motion? Steve, thank you. And a seconder? And Abigail, how about you? Good. That's great. Thanks so much. So that motion is now on the table. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Thanks. The motion is carried and the public part of our meeting is now adjourned. The board will move in camera. So let's take a 10-minute break and then come on back it'll be 10:45 my time. I'm not sure what time it is where all of you are, since we're across the country, but let's come on back in 10 minutes. Directors, you have a separate link to the in-camera portion of our meeting. So I'll see you all in 10 minutes. Thanks very much, everyone. And thanks to all who joined.